When the Soviet Union broke up, you would think that the last country to leave would be Russia. After all, it was the country that had the most to gain from its preservation. But the last country to declare independence was not Russia, but Kazakhstan. The area we now call Kazakhstan came under complete Russian occupation during the 19th century. The people of this region largely lived a nomadic or semi-nomadic lifestyle, which came under attack as the Russians implemented policies that brought people from other parts of the empire to settle the area. More land was opened up for farming and settlement due to the building of the Trans-Aral Railway connecting Orenburg to Tashkent in 1906. Over 500,000 farms were established between 1906 to 1912. The disruption of the nomadic way of life as well as increased migration resulted in unrest in the region. 1916 saw the beginning of the Central Asian Revolt. The revolt would lead to the Basmachi movement, which would later be crushed by the Red Army in the 1920s. The 1920s would also see a famine caused by a drought made worse by the Russian Civil War and the confiscation of grain and other agricultural products due to the policies of war communism. An estimated 400,000 to 750,000 died because of it. After the Soviet Union was established, the region would become an autonomous territory called the Kyrgyz SSR in 1920, which would later be renamed the Kazakh SSR in 1925. It would be separated from the Russian SFSR, becoming the Kazakh SSR in 1936. The country's capital would also be changed to Alma-Ata in 1929. 1930 to 1933 would also see a second, even more brutal famine in Kazakhstan, largely due to Stalin's policies of collectivization as well as using force to end the people's nomadic lifestyle. 80% of Kazakh livestock would be lost and an estimated 1.5 million people would die due to famine. So many people died as well as fled to other areas that ethnic Kazakhs became a minority in the Kazakh SSR. The region would be a vital part of the Soviet Union winning in World War II. Not only would it provide soldiers as well as resources for the war effort, but a great deal of industry would be relocated to the Republic, keeping it safe from the Germans. The decades after the war would see the Kazakh SSR continue to see growth of industry focused around its natural resources, increased development and standard of living, and increased migration of ethnic Russians and other groups to the Republic, especially during the Virgin Lands campaign. It would be the region where the Soviet nuclear tests were conducted, as well as the place where the USSR would launch rockets into space. In 1986, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Kazakhstan, Din Muhammad Kunayev, was replaced by Gennady Kolbin. He would be replaced by Nursultan Nazarbayev in 1989. By the end of the 80s, the Soviet Union was reaching collapse. Nazarbayev was one of the few who didn't want to see the Union break up, arguing that all the republics had economies integrated with each other, making independence an economic disaster. However, this didn't matter, as on the 8th of December 1991, the leaders of Russia, Belarus and Ukraine would meet and sign a document declaring that the Soviet Union had ceased to exist. This left Kazakhstan as the last Soviet republic not to declare independence until December 16, when it did. Now free from Moscow, Kazakhstan began enjoying life as an independent country, starting with an economic crisis. The country was integrated with Russia, which after independence saw its economy crash, resulting in Kazakhstan also being affected. Its newly introduced currency immediately lost value, and reforms were slow, making the situation even worse. In 1992, inflation would reach 3,060%. However, Kazakhstan still handled the economic shock better than other republics. This was probably due to the country's economy being based on natural resources. Nazarbayev would also use the crisis to give himself more power, with the 1993 constitution making the president more powerful. He would eventually become a dictator. Many freedoms were suppressed and most, if not all, elections were fraudulent. Corruption under his rule was rampant and the privatization of state companies would result in the creation of oligarchs. After 2001, the continuous rise in the price of oil would result in Kazakhstan's economy growing at an average of 8% till 2013. Poverty would fall from 47% in 2000 to just 2% in 2013. Nazarbayev ruled the country till 2019, when protests forced him to resign, allowing Kassym-Jomart Tokayev to take over. Nazarbayev would still retain influence by becoming chairman of the Security Council. However, he would be removed by Tokayev following protests in 2022 due to increase in gas prices. As long as it can diversify its economy as well as keep a balanced relationship between China, Russia and the US, it should have a bright future.